The race for Minnesota State Auditor is usually a very low-key affair. But this year, the Democratic primary is turning out to be one of the most heated of all races. In a surprise move and at the very last minute, former House Minority Leader Matt Entenza jumped into the race against the incumbent and fellow Democrat Rebecca Otto. Entenza's entry into the race prompted protests from top party officials, and most Democratic leaders, from Senator Amy Klobuchar to Governor Dayton, are supporting Rebecca Otto. Matt Entenza was a guest on a recent show here, and joining us right now is the State Auditor Rebecca Otto. Thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, let me ask you, I know it's been several weeks since Matt Entenza jumped into the race very unexpectedly. No one thought he was going to do it. He says he jumped in because he said you have been way too low key. No one knows who you are. The state auditor's office is not high profile enough. You're not doing enough to regulate state spending.
I think the mistake that people make with the state auditor race is they think it's governor, and it's not governor. You don't make policy, you don't hand out money, you watch the money. So it's oversight. When you get to decide who gets money and set major state policy, you are much higher profile. When you're doing oversight, you're providing transparency around financial transactions of our local governments. You're making sure their audits are being done. It's not headline making material. So I worked very hard and in this job, and there's other groups that have weighed in that know what auditing is, and so the Institute of Internal Auditors named me recently one of the 15 most influential professional government auditors in America at all levels of government. So I'll take their word over his.
All right. You also have been very vocal on forums like Twitter about the amount of money that he is putting into the race. When he ran for governor a few years ago, he spent, I believe, over $1 million of his own money. Your thoughts about that?
I don't think that big money belongs in this race, and that really concerns me and should concern Minnesotans. Again, you're not handing out money, and it's not policy. So Secretary of State and State Auditor have always had lower spending limits because we don't have to talk about lots of policy areas. It's more the specific job that we're doing, which is, for me, oversight. And so again, it's concerning that there would be big money in this race because there's never been an interest. And you should be able to communicate in fairly short order what it is you would do as a state auditor and your qualifications.
All right, but it's his money.
Yes.
All right. I mean, isn't he entitled to spend his own money if he wants to?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And I think this race is going to boil down to money versus love. So, and I believe that Democrats really like the work that I've done. They're very proud of us being, nation leading in terms of good government. And I believe and hope that I will be awarded another term.
All right. There also have been controversies popping up, among them one recently about a state auditor's convention here that was sponsored by an accounting firm. Matt Entenza says that is a conflict of interest because that accounting firm does do government work.
No, there's no conflict of interest. So when you're desperate, you're going to say things or try to make things up. And basically, with the National State Auditor Association conference, it wasn't sponsored by one CPA firm. There were lots of different sponsors. It's a $2,000 sponsorship. Most of it goes towards 2 registrations to the conference, because what we do is people need continuing professional education. It's part of the standards. Now, we don't contract with CPA firms. He said we regulate them. We do not regulate them, or that we watchdog them. We do not watchdog them. So he's wrong on all fronts, and it's not a controversy.
Okay. Mr. Entenza makes numerous points every time he's questioned about supporting pensions, protecting pensions. And I asked him, well, is Rebecca Otto against protecting pensions? What is your stand on protecting pensions?
Well, we provide oversight for about 700 volunteer fire relief associations in the office, and that supports our volunteer fire system. But we have to make sure they're following the laws when paying out pensions, and also making sure that they're following laws and rules when handling that money. I serve on the PARA board, and so we're trustees and fiduciaries, and your job is to make sure the funds are there for the long term. So I've been a very strong fiduciary. No one has ever accused me of not being, and we answer to both the taxpayers, the members of the plan, and the state. So it's a very specific job. I do my continuing education there as well. So I'm not sure, again, if you're the governor and the legislature tries to pass policy that maybe would do something bad to the pension plans, you can stop that as a governor. But as a state auditor, you're not the governor. You don't do policy and you don't hand out money.
All right. Well, Rebecca Otto, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you.